Suicide Zen Forgiveness, the pod that shares the stories of those affected by suicide. Lost a loved one? Attempted it yourself? Come listen in with your host, Elaine Lindsay. Elaine's mission? End the silence, stigma, and shame about suicide, ideation, and mental health. Sharing your burden can lighten your load. Elaine says we must normalize the conversation to make it easier for you to voice your pain and be able to ask for help. Reaching out to another human being when you're in need of a listening ear must become the norm. Please note, the Suicide Zen Forgiveness podcast is for education only. Some of this subject matter could be triggering. For those of you that are either grieving or having mental health problems, please call your local suicide hotline or mental health office if you need immediate help. And now, here's your host, Elaine Lindsay.
It's great to be back with you. And today I'm really thrilled to introduce you to our guest, Alicia Christian. She is a force to be reckoned with, an actress, singer, doctorate in nursing practice, and she's the host of the Eating Me podcast. After over 10 years away from the entertainment world, Alicia is ready to share her ability to engage an audience through her storytelling, sultry and gospel-based vocal stylings, or by way of interviewing individuals sharing stories about how eating has affected their lives on a personal or professional level. Beyond the entertainment realm, Alicia is a certified pediatric nurse practitioner. Children are magical and generally want to be their best selves each and every day. Alicia prides herself in assisting the pediatric population in providing preventative health education as well as treatment to help them lead lives they are meant to have as they approach adulthood. Alicia says, I'm a jack of all trades that has mastered how to do what I want in this life. What I want to do is to be a blessing to those that I encounter. The hope is they go out in the world and do the same. And today, we're going to go a little deeper into more personal subjects with Alicia. So I really am quite honored to have her with me today. And so I'm going to go right ahead and tell you all about my guest. Alicia Christian has agreed to join me today, for which I am very grateful. It's really wonderful when you can find guests that you feel aligned with, and I believe through everything that you've already heard about Alicia, you'll understand why I feel that way. Thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, you are so welcome. Thank you, Elaine, for having me on the show today. This is awesome. Thank you.
So, our show, Suicide Zen Forgiveness, is always about suicide loss, ideation, and mental health. And you really don't have to reach far in order to find someone in your circle, if you will, that has suffered a loss. And that's why we're here today. Alicia's going to share with us her story.
Yeah. Thank you so much. First of all, I just want to say just thank you for having this platform, because I know people that have had either someone they've lost, which is my story, or dealing with someone who is struggling with these like suicidal ideations and stuff. It's hard to express to other people who've never experienced it what it's like. And every one of us, we have our own way of dealing with it and how we process it and whatever, but it's still like we're a part of the same, I hate to say it, like the same club, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so my sister, so I'm the youngest of six.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm the youngest of six and from a very religious home. And growing up in a religious home, there are certain things that God's going to take care of. And mental health was one of those things, because that was in my home growing up at the time, it was something that the devil had put upon whoever.
Right.
And we're going to pray this away. God's got it. And if something has happened to where it's not worked out, there's something wrong with you. Like you're not
Yeah.
succumbing to God's will or whatever that looks like. And so with my sister, she was sexually abused. Actually, the majority of my siblings, and myself included, we were all sexually abused by family members.
Ah,
And so she struggled with processing that. And then also the fact that she was dealing with being a lesbian this was in the 80s.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. There was just
That's a lot of pile on,
a
eh?
whole pile up. And in the 1980s, regardless of the fact that it was the 80s, we also grew up in a very religious home.
Yeah.
And for a lot of African American families, you just don't talk about that, even if you're not religious. Like
No.
you don't being gay is it was the most taboo thing on the planet. And that's even across the board with other cultural
Yeah.
backgrounds as
Oh,
well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But with my experience, that was the thing. Like we didn't talk about it. It was something that we knew about. We would talk behind her back about it. And so she knew that. So all that was there, right? And
Yeah.
her trying to resolve
Mm.
her own battles with being sexually molested and our parents not really having the tools to deal with that.
Yeah.
So she struggled a lot mentally in my with growing up. So like I said, I was the youngest. And so I'm seeing a lot of this through a child's eyes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, I'm the youngest of six, and my oldest sibling, which is my brother, he's 10 years older than me. So I
Right.
grew up with basically like teenagers, and they were adults
Yeah.
by the time I was a teenager. So seeing her grow up and become an adult woman and still have these struggles, it was hard for me because I was so young. And it's even though that's my sister, I'm still like a kid. So I just didn't know what I could do, if I could do
Yeah.
anything. And so the first time I knew that she had mental health concerns, I believe I was like in middle school. And a lot of her mental health concerns were kept away from me until she was hospitalized. The first time she attempted, or that I knew that she had
Right.
attempted
Right.
to take her life. And I remember one day my mom said to me, we're going to go see Carla. And I was like, where is she? Because we all lived in the same house. And there were so many people in our house all the time, like people
Yeah.
from all over. So it was like sometimes if you didn't see somebody, it wasn't that, whatever. We were just always going. We all had our own
Yep.
thing going on. So the day that she said we're going to go see her, I was like, well, why don't we just stay and wait for her to come home? Like, where are we going?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is happening? And then once my mom explained to me that she has been struggling with mental health concerns and I've had no choice but she requested, basically my sister requested to be hospitalized. And my mother was devastated because like I said before, growing up very religious,
Oh, yeah.
like that was something that other people did. That was secular, that was nothing of God. And my mom, because my sister had struggled for so long and I had no idea, I guess she finally was like, okay, clearly I need to change my approach.
Yeah.
So that's when she was hospitalized. And when I went to see her, it was as if she was a completely different person.
Mhm.
And I just didn't understand. I didn't understand. Like I said, I was in middle school, I was like 12, 13 years
Yeah.
old. So I was just like, who is this person? I recognize her features, but the spirit, her energy,
Yeah.
the flat effect obviously was because she was medicated. I just was completely just taken aback. I was like, what is happening? And so this went on for years where she would be hospitalized, she would come back out, and just probably one of the most beautiful spirits I've ever encountered in my life. My sister was literally one of the best people I had ever met
Oh,
in terms of just being a good, generous person. But the battle that she had, it was in so many ways, it was just stronger than what she could handle. And she went on to become a social worker, and she moved. I'm from Indiana, right? She was a social worker
Wow.
and worked at a hospital in Indianapolis, Indiana, and made huge changes within their particular mental health program, which was so amazing to me that she went into this field because she was like, okay, I'm assuming, I never talked to her about it, but I'm assuming she went into it thinking maybe the more education I get behind this, it'll help me in some way. And I can still be a blessing to those because I can share with them I struggle too. She, like I said, she went into mental health and, like I said, did a lot of great work, but it still just didn't work in her favor in that way. And so, like I said, growing up and just seeing that, I'm trying to make sure I'm following this this all in a way that makes sense. But even though she had so many accomplishments, like I said, there was a stifle there with her. And at some point, she moved away. She moved to Atlanta with my other sister. She got a job at another hospital in Atlanta, and she was doing really well there. And at that time, I was an adult and I had moved to New York, so I just thought everything was fine. You
Yeah.
know, I didn't know that she was still struggling in that way. Her medication was regulated from what I knew. My parents my mother at the time, my father had passed by then, but my mother was on board with the fact that she was managing her mental health and she was, I don't know if my mom would say quote unquote okay with the fact that she was a lesbian woman, but she would accept her partners when they would come around. And I thought we were doing well. And it's still cloudy to me as to where things kind of went
Yeah.
south with her deciding to take her life. But like I said, she moved to Atlanta. She met her partner there. And there were some things that happened with her job, I believe, that were really stressful. And I think that started her back into this spiral of wanting
Right.
to, yeah. She had attempted a few times while she was in Atlanta and came back home to my mother and stayed with her for a while. But then she attempted to take her life at my mom's home.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I remember my sister, another sister of mine, she was sharing with not me directly, but it was just a group of us, like a family. And she said my mom found her and they sent her to the emergency room. And luckily she was revived that time. And my sister that was sharing the story, like I was saying before, she said that she was back there with my mom, just trying to support my mom at the time. And when they were able to see my sister, she went back to her and she said, "Carla, do you was this a good decision for us to revive you?" Which I thought was pretty radical for my family to say
wow.
because I I c- I know my older sister that was actually talking to her. I know because she's also a social worker, and I think she understood it on the side of the work that she does and saying, "Are you this tired?"
Yeah. And the pain that that Carla was in,
Right.
comes a point where you've attempted that many times. Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand why your sister, and in actual fact, that was very compassionate.
Yeah. And I and some people, I've said this to people just in general. I said to see her go through what she did go through,
Mhm.
I feel now that she's at peace. And there's conflicting thoughts and feelings of how people kind of view people who have taken their lives, who have actually
Yeah,
been successful with it. For me, and just seeing her struggle for the time that she did,
yeah,
I it hurts that she's not here anymore because of how amazing she was, but at the same time, I'm happy for her, if
yeah.
that makes sense.
I understand what you're saying, and because it's really hard to watch people we love suffer.
Yeah, yeah.
It really is.
It was so hard. And I just remember the last time I remember her being hospitalized. And I vaguely remember her just saying, it's just this, meaning this life, it's just not worth it. And I've never had those thoughts and feelings. I can't imagine what that feels like, to feel like it's just not worth it. It's just it's always been a thing for me to just try to take care of myself mentally.
Hmm.
And I don't know all the ins and outs when it comes to the mental health side. I'm a nurse practitioner, I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner, but the mental health side, to me, people will always ask me, why didn't you go into mental health? I was like, for me, it's too personal.
Yeah,
One,
absolutely.
it's way too personal for me. And so, because I don't have all the knowledge and all the latest information about it, I wonder, especially with my sister, what else could have been done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know I don't know. I don't know that anything could have been done to really allow her to stay here.
Well, pardon me, but when you were children,
Mm.
if things hadn't have been done,
Yeah.
she would not have gone there. And that's a whole
So, yeah.
that's a whole other thing.
It's so awesome that you mentioned that, because my mother, with the tools that she had, she thought that she was offering my sister some type of guidance or support in the way of pushing the narrative that being a Christian and trusting in God and all this praying would actually not only help her mentally, but help her eradicate being a lesbian woman. And also take the thoughts and feelings that she had about being molested as a child
Yeah.
away, that God would actually wash all that away. But then I find out later that my mother was also a victim of sexual molestation.
And I was just about to ask you,
Yeah.
because it is a perpetual cycle.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact.
Hmm.
Myself, my mother.
Yeah.
And in a different way, we were religious. I was brought up Catholic.
Hmm.
And yeah, and I'm going on 68. So when I was a child, you didn't talk about anything outside of
Right.
your family. You just did not. And more to the point, or mental health, or being molested, a man interfered with my aunt in the building we lived in.
Mm.
And the husbands went after him
Oh, wow.
badly. And my aunt and uncle were evicted.
Wow.
And they made it difficult for the other Scottish people that lived in the buildings because they had gone after him. The weird thing is, I found out many years later, because I never told my parents until I was in my 40s
Hmm.
what happened to me. And it was very minimal as far
Right.
as things go. But as it turns out, my mother ended up having to be involved in a court case and
Mm.
everything because her uncles found out as she ran away from the house. She got away and went running through the park, and my uncles were coming out of a bedding place, and they saw her, and I guess saw how disheveled she was, and they got the information from her. It
Mm.
was someone that they knew, and they went and literally almost killed him,
Wow.
and she had to testify against them
Wow.
as a teenager. It just, when I found it, just broke my heart, and I started doing research and realized that you will find it in families, somewhat like I had mentioned to you earlier about childhood sexual abuse survivors. You know each other.
Yeah.
Everybody has that understanding. It's unfortunate because some children that are in the foster system that have big families with a lot of perps in the family
Mhm.
will be passed around because they know each other too.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
It's very heartbreaking. And it's so funny that you say that because that's so with my family and the sexual abuse. We're like going on this. I was like, wow, I didn't know it was gonna happen, but
Yeah.
here we are. But with my family, we were always together to some degree. And we have a huge family. And so because of that, a lot of times those things would happen in certain events and no one would know it was happening
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the perpetrator had taken you
Yeah.
somewhere and whatever. And then when we would tell parents or whoever, it was a thing of like, that never happened. We're not talking about that anymore. And so you just never felt
Validated.
validated or supported. Like you just didn't feel safe. And I wonder if that was another thing my sister struggled with because even
Yeah.
though we had shared this stuff with my mom, and that was still our family in her eyes. And
And
you don't go against family.
no, and because your mom had also been down that road,
Yeah.
there were 2 generations of silence.
Mhm.
So that'd be another reason that she probably couldn't understand how deeply it affected your sister. But we're all so different.
Yes.
5 of us can have the same experience, and not one of us has the same outcome, the same reaction, because we are so different.
And that's so funny because I was actually sharing with another sister of mine, something similar to that, just saying we were talking about something that was traumatic that happened. And I said to her, she's like, I just don't understand. We all grew up in the same house. Like how? And I was like, but you have to understand your perception of something is different than my perception. And we can go on and on. We're all individuals and how we perceive things is different. And we have to acknowledge that and allow that person and hold space for that person because
Yeah.
to dismiss them and gaslight them, that is not helpful. It's
No.
not helpful. So, oh, I went through it too. Why? It's not that big of a deal. It's like, no, I'm telling you how I feel about this.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is, it's really affecting me. And that was something that was shared a lot with my mother from that sister, my sister Carla, and other sisters. But the other sisters, it did not that it didn't affect them in the way that it affected Carla, but they also felt not validated by my mom as well. But it just didn't affect their mental health in the way that it affected my sister Carla.
And not only that, you didn't see them as they became adults
Yeah.
24/7.
Right.
So we don't necessarily see how things affect us
Hmm.
and where that goes for different people because we're all so different.
And it's just so wild. And so I know my mother, particularly when my sister actually was successful with the suicide, my mother she felt so guilty for so long.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, another sister of mine definitely said to her that my,
Oh,
my mother was the reason
yeah.
that this happened. And I was still young, and I've always felt young. So I never felt like my voice counted.
Yeah.
So I to interject and say something, I was always the baby. So I was like, and I've
I was
always,
gonna say you're still the baby.
to this day, like I am 45 years old. I'll go home and people are like, oh, there's the baby. I'm like, I am
Yeah.
45, but whatever.
It's true.
It is what it is. But we all have like our role in our family.
Yeah.
But I just never felt like I could just stand up and say anything in those types of conversations because I've always been the baby. And who's listening to the baby? Let's be serious. So I in some ways it hurt me that my mom had to take on that
Yeah.
burden because it was like, was it all my mom? I don't want to, I don't see that. And it's
Um,
not.
no, and that's in you acknowledging that she too had been through the same thing. We can't put the blame on her, okay? Because she had that damage as well.
Right.
and obviously coped with it the best she could in her time. And it can be even more debilitating
Hmm.
for those that are seeing it happen to the next generation,
Right.
because what we all came from was such silence
Yes.
and such cover ups and secrets and
Mhm.
whatever, that you can only, when you know better, you do better. And the
Right.
fact is, there was no way for her to know better.
And my mother, just from what I know about her life, she was constantly just trying to survive. And even when she was married with my father he was great. He provided. My mom worked because she just wanted to, basically. But she still had this survivor's mentality because she grew up in poverty. And I think growing up in poverty and dealing with all the other things, the external things that she had to deal with, she never had the opportunity to unravel that and process it in a way
Yeah,
that would allow her to feel safe and just be, and then change certain behaviors. Like you said, when when she was told about her children also going through this type of thing, it was just like, how is that possible? How is that possible? And then also, I don't even know what to do with this information because no one has ever even probably even knew that she was
yes,
molested herself. And I can attest to that because I remember her talking to one of my aunts, her sister, and we were on vacation somewhere, and we were in a car driving somewhere, and somehow they got on a conversation about when they were younger. And my mom was they were talking about some man and how he was just a very southern woman. Oh, he was a nasty old man.
yep, yep.
And my mother said to my aunt, he touched me. And my aunt was like, "What?" And they went on and talked about it. And my aunt started crying and it wasn't him. Somebody else had done the same to her. And that dialogue was happening right before me. And I was like, oh, this is a thing because it had happened to me. So I was like, is this normal? But I never knew that this would happen to my mother. So I had never shared with my mother.
No,
But to know that they had gone through that, and this is probably their first time even talking about this.
yeah,
At this point, I'm assuming my mom was almost in her 60s talking about this. It was like, oh, okay. Now looking back, this all makes sense. This all makes sense. She was beyond a grown woman, adult children, and she's just now sharing with her
yeah,
sister,
yeah,
and her sister doing the same with her, that they both were victims of sexual molestation. It's wild.
yeah. And the horrible thing is, we are in the majority.
Yeah. Wow.
It,
It's
it
unreal.
is,
It's mind-boggling. And I wish these types of conversations would have been around when my sister
yeah,
was around.
yeah,
Once again, I don't know if that would have been something that would have helped her to stay around, but I think it would have provided some type of reassurance of, oh, I'm not by myself. I'm not alone. Okay,
yeah,
this way I am validated, maybe not by my mother, but other people are having these conversations and I can be a part of that collective and try and heal in some way,
yeah.
right? Um,
It's like this, the Me Too movement.
mhm.
In a way, it's the best next step, because the silence about everything that was secretive, silence about everything from suicide to molesting to all of it has to stop.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have to say, millennials and Gen Z are, they can be incredibly annoying. I will say that. My grandkids, but they have a certain inner knowing almost that they matter, and they're just not going to put up with the things that we did.
Right.
They're not going to be quiet. And I think that is the best thing that could happen.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I have a 16-year-old, so I see it in real time all day, every day. And she is the person I wish I were at 16.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes even now, I'm like, I wish I had the nerve to say that.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I see her standing in her being and unapologetic, and just the discernment that she has. It's
Oh,
just wow. It's beautiful. But like you said, sometimes just pump the brakes. You guys are
yeah.
too much.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely see that aura of I matter. And
Yeah.
if you're not gonna stand up for me, I'm gonna stand up for
I'm
you.
good.
That type of
Exactly.
essence. And I'm like,
Exactly.
wow, that's beautiful. That is
It
beautiful.
it so is, and I certainly not before time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really great to see her and even her friends in that type of space, just really standing up for themselves and just being so passionate about taboo things that we would have
Oh, yeah.
never
Yeah.
thought about talking about other adults about, and confronting them in
Mhm.
ways of saying this is wrong. We need to
Yeah.
fix it. Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
And I don't want our audience to think that we're being hid in the clouds because
Yeah.
we still have a ludicrous amount of bullying. We still have kids being pressured to do things they're not ready for. And we
Mhm.
still have that. But this last two generations, I think they have a better chance
Yeah.
because so many of them are standing in their truth,
Yeah.
no matter what we say.
Right. And even down to the bullying and harassment, because I also work in schools, it's there. It is so palpable in some ways. But like you said, a lot of the kids are more open and willing to talk to adults
Yeah.
in ways that I would have never talked to adult
Oh,
with.
no.
I would have never
Mm-mm.
trusted an adult to handle what I
Mm-mm.
thought was my business
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I was like, how would you even understand what to do? Or I don't want to make, at least I could say on my end, when those things were happening to me, I didn't want to cause more problems.
Oh, absolutely. And for me, the Catholicism is guilt and shame.
Hmm.
So that's really did not know what exactly was wrong, but I knew something about this was wrong.
Yeah.
Therefore, I must be at fault.
Yes.
And because it happened after my aunt,
Mm.
I thought in my head was, oh, I don't want to get the family kicked out.
Yes.
Like, I don't want them to beat up somebody else. This isn't a good thing.
Yes.
And I took it upon myself. But I was always one to fight my own battles.
Yeah. I can attest to
Yep. Yep.
that. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think too, because even beyond my sister, I've lost other family members to the battle of suicide. And I think basically just like we just said, that fighting our own battles. My sister was a person that would fight her own battles. I had a cousin who lost his life to suicide in 2020.
Oh,
And he was a person that would fight his own battles. It was a shocker because he was so together, so put together. Like
yeah.
he was in magazines for one of the top, what do they call it? It's like people under 40 who are very successful. I'm
Yeah.
butchering that, but he
Up
was,
40 under 40.
yes, top 40 under 40. He was
Yeah.
a top 40 under 40. And we just thought he was just so together and didn't realize
Yeah.
that he was battling with so many mental health concerns because he would just keep it all in. And I can handle it. I can tackle it because I'm so successful and all these other things. How can I not be successful with managing my mental health? So I think for those people who do manage things on their own or attempt to manage things on their
Yeah.
own, I think things like podcasting, like this type of platform, is so important because even if they're not in a place now to share, maybe these messages that are happening will allow them to realize that it's possible. Like you can reach out. You don't have to do all
Yes.
this by yourself.
Yeah.
You don't.
And
There are people that are willing and want to support you in whatever
oh
way.
my God. Yeah. Yeah. And if we can open that door just a little, for even one person.
Yeah,
That's so important.
it is. And I hope that more people have that opportunity to see that you are you are important to somebody.
Yeah, yeah,
And even though you're dealing with whatever you're dealing with when it comes to your mental health concerns and not feeling worthy or whatever that is, and you feeling like your life is not important, the hope is that there's something that you can find joy in,
yeah, yeah,
and there's someone that wants to see you in that joy.
yeah,
Even though you might not feel that, there is somebody that wants to see you in that joy and living your best life. And it's just
absolutely.
and just my thing is I'm all about like just calling out to the universe, calling out to God,
Yes,
asking, where is that joy? Where is that person? Show me. And if that's something that will help somebody, I say just reach out to the universe, reach out to God, whatever you believe in, and just say, where is that joy for me? Where is that person that can just and allow that to come into your life? And just try to make those changes because I think that's a lot of it is just reaching out and just saying, I need help. I need
absolutely, absolutely. And I'm the eternal Pollyanna. I will look for the good in anything
that's
and
me. This
everything.
is so weird. I'm like, you
Yeah.
so many parallels right now.
But you know, you take me to a barn full of horse shit, and I guarantee you I'll start digging because there's
Yeah.
a pony in there somewhere.
Right.
That's
I,
that's my philosophy.
I love that.
But I found after a lot of years
Mhm.
of being a victim and
Mm,
going through trauma and ideation and all of those things, the minute I started being grateful
yes.
for all the little things,
Mhm.
oh my God, they pile up. They
Yes.
pile up. And the minute you start being kinder to you
Mhm.
and not trying to do it all yourself, the world opens up and you realize that it is full of really nice people
Yes.
who also just want to succeed.
Yeah.
And as long as you maintain that gratitude, and as you say, look to the universe and God and ask where your joy is. Absolutely. I think that's such a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah. I wish I wouldn't have taken the baby role and
Yeah.
said more things, but I think now I have that opportunity to say the things to people to
Yeah.
just help one person. That is always my hope is I just want to be a blessing and not a burden. That's always my thing. I want to be a blessing and not a burden. Seriously.
Absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful words for sure.
Yeah.
And my ask of everybody lately is I would like people, everybody, to just one person once a month, give somebody you don't know 10 minutes and just listen.
Mm,
Listen to what they have to say. Let them tell you what's important to them. I'm not asking you to change the world. I'm not asking you to do anything huge.
mhm.
But if everyone, our audience, us, all the people we're attached to, do that, there will be no more people that are all alone in this world.
Yeah.
And that's my wish.
Yeah. That is beautiful.
But thank you. Thank you.
You are welcome. Oh my gosh. This was amazing.
I just, I said before the show started, you have the most beautiful smile.
Oh, thank you.
And you just radiate, which I think is wonderful. I feeling blessed to have you on the show.
Thank you. And I am blessed to have had the opportunity to share. And it's, I didn't know how I was going to be able to do this today. But at the same time, it was like I felt called. So when you reached out, I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, this has to be something that I share with others because I know someone out there can relate. So thank you.
Thank you, and I thank the universe and God
Yeah.
or whatever people call
Yeah.
on, because in reading all the wonderful things that you do, it doesn't necessarily mention what I do.
Mm,
But the universe kept pulling me back to this one post.
right.
It was like, you don't have to hit me over the head anymore. Got it. Got it.
I love it. I love
I'm
it.
much more aware now
Mm.
when my questions and when my requests are answered,
Yeah.
because we often will put it out to God in the universe that, oh, I need this, or I would like this, or whatever. And then we just close our eyes and don't pay any attention. And it's all around us.
Just be willing to receive it. Be willing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm learning that myself. I'm still like really just trying to be open and just and be aware and not just not
Yeah.
let all the external to just cloud it. It's no.
Yeah.
Be open.
And yeah, I'm here to say the learning and the being open, it doesn't end. You got to keep trying.
Right. It's so funny. That's one thing I've realized too is there's no destination in this thing of life. There's
No.
no destination. We're constantly learning. It's just a
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
And I'm just wanting to be as open as possible on this journey and just keep learning. Like I thought once I graduated and did all the things with schooling, I was like, I will be at the pinnacle. I'll be at the top. There's no top, Alicia. You just keep going.
Keep going, and you widen the
Yes.
knowledge that you take in.
Hmm.
And for me, I think the greatest gift you have is curiosity.
Yes.
Because as long as you're curious,
Hmm.
you will not stagnate.
Right. Yeah. I consider myself a pretty. I've always been called nosy when I was a kid.
Yes, yes. Chatty Cathy and nosy
Yes,
nosy.
no, yeah, that was always my report card. That I
Yep.
love to talk to people, and my everyday they would call me they called me Miss Liz because a woman across the street who was very nosy. She knew everyone's business, and so her name was Elizabeth. So that I took on the name of Miss Liz because I was apparently like Miss Liz across the street. So,
Well, it's not nosiness. It's actual inquisitive
yeah.
curiosity.
Hmm.
Because it's amazing if you let someone tell you about them.
Hmm.
Oh, it's amazing what you'll hear.
It is.
Just amazing.
Yeah. I love people and I love hearing their stories. That's
Oh, yeah.
it's one of my favorite things. It's like everybody has a story. Everybody has a story.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Everybody has a story, and everybody has a special gift.
Yes.
I used to tell my children, and who happen to be 9 years apart,
Uh-huh.
I used to tell them when they were young that you could never make fun of another person
Mm.
because they can't do what you do, because they'll have a talent that you don't have. And I worked at a place called Rideau Regional Hospital School
Uh-huh.
as a volunteer, and then I was hired as a teenager, and they paid me for the summer. And I worked with extremely handicapped adults and children, and was there for a few years. And every single one of those people had some kind of talent
Mm.
that I didn't have and that my friends didn't have. And I started watching people and realizing that, yeah, everybody's got something.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what's so beautiful just about humanity in general. It's like the more that we allow people to know that there's something beautiful about that, there's something special, there's some type of talent and express that. You're on this planet for a reason. So
Yeah,
hone into that and just shine. Seriously.
absolutely. Like
Yeah.
somebody does something nice for you, if the waitress is very quick about bringing your coffee or doing
Right.
whatever, tell her, say
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
We are so quick to tell when something bad happens, and I know I'm very good at that.
Right.
But I make a point of
Yeah.
telling people when they do a good job,
Yeah.
because quite often They don't get that at all.
Mm.
They just get the bad stuff.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's me. That's my hope, is to constantly just be spreading more positivity, more love. It's like there's so many things happening right now in the world. Let's act that with more love and joy and positivity. Seriously.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
This has been wonderful.
Oh,
Um,
really, thank you so much.
I so enjoyed talking to you.
Uh,
I think we're going to have to do this again.
Please, I would love to. This would
Perfect.
be, yes. Yeah.
Perfect. Because I think we have a lot more to talk about.
Yes, for sure. Elaine, this is the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Alicia Christian has been my guest today, and you will be sure and check out everything in the transcripts that will be below the podcast, along with all her links and information. I thank you, Alicia, so much for being with me today. I'm Elaine Lindsay. This is Suicide Zen Forgiveness. And as always, make the very best of your today, every day. And I'll see you next time.
Thank you for being here for another inspiring episode of Suicide Zen Forgiveness. We appreciate you tuning in. Please subscribe and download on your favorite service, and check out SZF's YouTube channel or Facebook community. If you have the chance to leave a 5-star rating or review, it'd be greatly appreciated. Please refer this to a friend you know who may benefit from the hope and inspiration from our guests. Suicide Zen Forgiveness was brought to you by the following sponsors: Truel Social Media, the digital integration specialists. Let them get you rocking page 1 in the search results. Canada's keynote humorist Judy Croon, motivational speaker, comedian, author, and stand-up coach at Second City, Judy has been involved for over a decade in the City Street Outreach Program in Toronto. Lisa Sugarman, Boston-based author, columnist, and crisis counselor with the Trevor Project, America's largest suicide and crisis support network for at-risk LGBTQ+ youth, storyteller with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, survivor of suicide loss, and mental health advocate. Lisa's purpose aligns with Elaine's as Lisa shares content and sparks conversations to help end the stigma of suicide and connect people with the support and hope they deserve. Do you have a story to share? Do you know someone you think would be a great guest? Please go to szf42.com. And for our American listeners, that's szf42.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again.